And what if the life you most envy hides a chilling secret? Kristina Joksimovic, a former Miss Switzerland finalist, was beautiful, successful, and widely adored. But beneath the fashionable facade and glamorous motherhood, a dark nightmare was hidden that would end up shattering her world. Model Kristina Joksimovic, who was a former Miss Switzerland finalist in 2008, showed her followers and admirers on her social media a perfect image of glamour, elegance, beauty, and family unity with her husband and two little girls. However, behind the doors of that home and when the cameras were turned off, the reality for Kristina was very, very different. In private, her husband showed his true face, that of a controlling and violent man who did not let his partner, his wife, breathe or spread her wings. And while the former beauty queen had tried at all costs to keep her family together and regain the love that once existed in the marriage, everything ended in the worst way on February 13th of the year 2024. That fateful day, the police received a call filled with horror and hysteria from the model's house located in the Binningen commune near Basel in Switzerland. When the authorities arrived at the home of the supposed perfect family, they were confronted with a horrible image that they could never erase from their retinas. But what happened to Kristina Joksimovic? And it's that inside a garbage bag was the horror and a perfect life completely shattered. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. Kristina Joksimovic was born on April 15th of the year 85 in Binningen. Her childhood and adolescence was simple and just like any other girl from her country. In her youth, she loved sports and enjoyed spending free time with friends and family. However, everything would take a 180-degree turn in her routine when at 16, a model scout saw her on the streets of her neighborhood and asked her if she wanted to participate in a beauty contest. Although at first she didn't believe him, Kristina let herself be convinced without knowing that this decision would lead her 4 years later to become one of the most prominent women in her country. From that moment on, nothing stopped her. In her professional career, she stood out in the world of fashion and beauty. She was crowned Miss Northwest Switzerland in the year 2003, while she participated in the Miss Switzerland contest in the year 2007. She completed the contest without winning, gaining notoriety nonetheless. And although she didn't take, as I tell you, the much-desired crown, having participated in this contest was the second major turn in her life and nothing was the same again. She herself called it a moment that changed my life. Everyone recognized her on the street and she was very admired in the modeling world. During that time, many people also approached her to ask how to walk beautifully on the stage. It was natural that over time she expanded her ambitions to provide women from all walks of life, not just her fellow models, the confidence to walk in high heels. So after establishing a career as a model, she decided to retire and set up a consulting and coaching agency. Kristina's specialty was catwalk coaching, where she trained international models to move on the runways. In her agency, she trained candidates like Dominique Vinderknecht, winner of Miss Switzerland in 2013, whom she prepared for the Miss Universe pageant. Kristina's social media accounts under her trade name of Catwalk Coach were full of videos of the model demonstrating how to walk in 10 to 15 centimeter high heels and sliding her feet into the famous red soles of a certain prominent brand. If you like this fashion concept, you surely already know what they are. So, through her YouTube channel, the former Miss Switzerland showed how she taught younger models to model gracefully. But not only professionals, many women without modeling ambitions also approached who just wanted to act with confidence in their day-to-day. Her clients were 60%, let's say, normal women with no modeling experience who just wanted to work on their posture, their insecurity when wearing high heels, or their self-confidence and what looks to focus on or use to make a good first impression. One of the people who benefited from Kristina's wisdom was Miss Universe Switzerland Lorena Santen, who confessed that Kristina was a brilliant example of kindness, warmth, and dedication. Her passion for helping others reach their full potential was truly inspiring to many women. She believed in her students, not just as contestants, but as people. Her warm and humble character, always filled with messages of encouragement, motivating words, and inspiring posts on Instagram, made her have a large number of followers who once dreamed of following in her footsteps. My name is Kristina Joksimovic, coach, and I'm preparing Natalie for her big show. Let's start with the first post. If you want to look confident and sexy, take a step to the side, turn and lean slightly back. If you're wearing a dress, take a step forward and lean back to highlight your leg. In this instance, Kristina had a successful business as a runway coach, her own brilliant portfolio as a model, a lifestyle that took her from the waves of Hawaii to the ski slopes of her native Switzerland.
As she herself acknowledged, she had many things in her life to be proud of, but work was not the only important thing in her life. Her family was also important.
Together with her husband Thomas, she had 2 little girls who were born between the year 2020 and 2021 with just a few months difference. Kristina was proud of many things in life, but for her there was nothing better than being a mother. So in September of 2021, just a few weeks after giving birth to a second daughter, Kristina posted a black and white photograph on Instagram of her with her older child, showing the couple's back as they sat by a lake in the Swiss city of Basel. What I was saying, I'm proud of many things in life, but nothing tops being a mother. This is what she wrote in a post. Her professional life was prosperous, but the greatest pride for Kristina was her family.
She was a devoted mother of 2 girls, born in 2020 and 2021.
On her social media, she frequently posted moments of enjoyment with her girls, photos of a loving and happy family life. In December 2016, she shared the moment when her then-boyfriend proposed to her, posting a photograph of her face and declaring, "I said yes," in a post heartbreakingly marked with the hashtag love of my life, which years later would cease to be a beautiful memory. You'll see why right now, but you're already getting an idea. You can imagine it. So Kristina and her husband Tomas got married in the year 2017, and the wedding was like a fairy tale. The setting was a luxury hotel built in the style of a castle, perched near some thunderous waterfalls overlooking Lake Brienne. Kristina was in a dress with a lace top and loose hair, adorned with a simple flower band, and the groom was elegantly dressed in navy blue. "Forever in your arms" was what Kristina wrote when she shared a photo gallery of the wedding online. "Pure love" was also what she wrote to the accompanying video. To these memories on her Instagram, similarly, there were more posts full of love. Love, in quotes, like "my rock," she declared 6 months later while they were spending their honeymoon in Argentina and Antarctica. Thus, after consolidating that supposed love, the couple moved to a spacious townhouse in an affluent area of Basel where they raised their 2 children. Later, they would chart their journey towards motherhood by posing radiantly for photographs with her growing belly, even as the pandemic and lockdowns loomed.
In fact, according to close friends and family, they seem to have a life
Out of a magazine? But not everything you see on social media is reality. The fact is, the marriage had been in crisis for months, with a history of domestic violence involved, which made things even worse. While the camera lens, I tell you, captured dreamlike moments, they obviously didn't convey the whole story. And it's impossible at this point to ask, when did a life that seemed so perfect take such a dark turn, or was it always dark? A tragic end at the hands of the very person who was supposed to take care of her. How a perfect life turned into a horrible tragedy. The fantasy life of 38-year-old Kristina collapsed from one moment to the next when on February 13th of the year 2024, her father received a call from his granddaughter's kindergarten informing that Kristina had not come to pick them up. Puzzled, since his daughter had never forgotten what was her world to her, he went to pick them up and took them to the family home. When Kristina didn't pick up her daughters from daycare, her father had a premonition that something was wrong. After Kristina's parents took the little ones to their grandparents' house, the first thing the man did was ask his son-in-law where his daughter was. What Thomas claimed is that he knew the whereabouts of his wife and said that it was common for her to leave without saying anything, that although the man didn't say anything else about it, they obviously had a bad feeling, especially because the father of their granddaughters was too calm about the situation. But behind the smiles and displays of affection, the cracks were starting to appear. Kristina's friends began to notice worrying signs in Marcos's behavior. He began to become increasingly possessive, wanting to know where Kristina was all the time. That same day, the model's parents decided to stay at the house for a few hours to help Thomas with the chores and with the girls until their mother returned. During those hours, everything was normal. Thomas calmly conversed with his in-laws, prepared dinner for everyone, and calmly tucked the girls into their beds as if nothing had happened and as if Kristina wasn't missing. So the night came and the elderly couple's worries increased more and more. At one point, while Thomas was talking to his mother-in-law, Kristina's father decided to search every corner of the house for any sign of his daughter. The feeling that something was wrong continued in his chest and he needed to make sure everything was okay. However, his suspicions became reality when he went down to the basement where the family had the laundry room and found a trash bag with what appeared to be tangled blonde strands sticking out. Slowly and with a pang in his chest, he approached the bag, and when he opened it, he realized that his daughter had never left the house. There in front of his eyes was the upper part of Kristina separated from the body. In shock at seeing such a grotesque scene, the man ran straight for the garage exit, screaming wildly, just as a passerby went by whom he asked to call the police. Then, still in a state of shock, the model's father returned to the house to confront his son-in-law face to face. The first thing he saw in his son-in-law was his stunned face, perhaps because he didn't think anyone would find the evidence of that horrific crime. Instead, Kristina's father was no longer facing a handsome businessman, a family man, and an exemplary husband, but a monster who had deceived him or who had deceived them all this time. The police arrived quickly at the home without knowing exactly what they were going to find, if the details of Kristina's death were not shocking enough. At that point, the story in the macabre basement of the police discovered tools bathed in red like an electric saw, a knife, and pruning shears. In addition, they found Kristina's remains in an unrecognizable state, described as mush in the house's sink. With this word mush, imagine the grotesqueness of this scene. A hand blender was also found with obvious red stains and remains of the victim's body, and a chemical compound that the man had used in an attempt to get rid of what he had left behind. And for all this, Thomas was immediately arrested as the main suspect in one of the most horrendous crimes in modern Switzerland. The murder of the runway coach has caused great shock in her innermost circle and the modeling world in Switzerland, especially due to the brutality of the events. Women are not safe anywhere. Not on the streets and definitely not in their homes. Every 11 minutes, a woman or a girl is killed by a family member.
Every 11 minutes.
To her closest friends, Kristina's family was a perfect family. After her unexpected crime, the life of her loved ones was hard, especially after the most gruesome details of the case were spread. Not only were they shocked by the brutality of her case, but the fact that they hadn't seen any sign of danger. On the other hand, who also reacted to Kristina's crime was Lorena, who was crowned as Miss Switzerland in the year 2023 and assured that Kristina's unbreakable love and generosity moved everyone around her, and she will always fondly remember the impact she had on her life. And it is that the news of this crime has generated a wave of reactions on social media where her followers expressed their disbelief and sadness. Many shared messages of condolence and memories of the former finalist, highlighting her beauty, talent, and kind spirit. In fact, before her loss, Kristina shared an emotional family post on her social media. In the photo, she was with her husband Thomas and their two daughters posing in front of the sea. The image, full of love and warmth, was accompanied by the description, "My world," which obviously, without knowing it, or maybe she already imagined it, this would be one of her last posts on Instagram with her family. Some friends and family mentioned to the media that the girl or the lady had tried to maintain an appearance of normality all this time, but that in private she was facing serious problems in her marriage. However, she had a very close and loving relationship with her daughters, who despite her marital problems, she strived to maintain a positive and safe environment for them. Kristina had been a dedicated and loving mother, always looking for the best for her daughters. Kristina tried to maintain an image of happiness. Her close friends felt that things were not as perfect as they seemed. There were tensions in the marriage, and Kristina's smile was beginning to fade.
On her social media, Kristina shared happy moments with her daughters, showing her love and dedication towards them.
The photos and posts reflected a relationship full of tenderness and care, which made her tragic end even more painful for those who knew her. 7 months after this brutal attack, in September of the year 2024, the first hearing against her husband and father of her daughters began, who claimed that Kristina's loss had been a result of self-defense. The case investigation had several twists and turns before this point. At first, in February, when Thomas was arrested, he declared that he found his wife lifeless, and for this reason, in a panic, he decided to dismember her in the laundry room. Then in March, during the reconstruction of the event, the man claimed that he took his wife's life because she had first attacked him with a knife. Thomas declared during the interrogation that she attacked him and he had no other choice. And yet, it was not enough for the criminal to take his wife's life and the details of his actions, which would leave him in a very bad position. And it was during a hearing that the autopsy report was released contradicting her husband's version. Forensic experts determined the woman was the victim of a horrific crime. According to the autopsy conclusion, Kristina had been strangled by her husband until he took her life. Then this monster, this beast, used a chainsaw and pruning shears to dismember his wife in the basement of their home. After completing this barbaric act, the man tried to grind the remains in a blender and dissolve them in a chemical solution so that nothing would be left of who had been the mother of his daughters. We tend to think that when someone had a period of time to premeditate it, or that a crime took a significantly long period of time, then stabbing someone to death is not instantaneous, then removing their body is not instantaneous. Not only did the details of the crime turn the stomachs of those present, but also the fact that the criminal played music videos on YouTube while making parts of his wife's body as if it were another task. And the only relief that the Mrs. family could have in all this was that, apparently, it was that the victim cut off his breath first before he inflicted these horrible wounds on the body. In fact, the psychiatric evaluation of the accused revealed that the man had a tendency to use violence and showed a lack of empathy and cold blood after the crime of his wife. In addition, efforts to cover up the crime determined that the defendant exhibited sadistic and sociopathic traits, which pointed to the existence of signs of mental illness. While this diagnosis opened the debate about his psychological state and his criminal responsibility in the crime, which could favor him to get a lesser sentence than he expected, the authorities highlighted the calculating nature of his actions and his deliberate attempt to get rid of the body, which pointed to a cold and rational mind, and not so much to a person out of his mind. Then, taking the body parts and putting them in a blender, all that takes time and requires a certain level of cognition and skill to execute some really disgusting and horrible actions. To further sink his attempts to get away with it, the prosecution revealed that it was not the first time that Thomas was violent with his wife and that there had been situations of gender-based violence in the past. In fact, witnesses claimed that Thomas even held Kristina by the neck and even hit her head against the wall. In fact, a friend who remained anonymous revealed that she wanted to break up with him, but she was scared. Apparently, the model had been strangled several times before her life was taken. But the criminal's violent attitudes were not only towards his wife. Justice also revealed that he had been violent with a previous partner. That partner gave statements in a hearing where she documented his frequent tantrums, including an occasion where he ran over her foot with his car and then threatened to throw her out of the vehicle. On another occasion also, while he was driving, he suddenly braked, leaving her with whiplash after she hit her head against the front of the vehicle. He confessed twice and changed his story. The change in the story goes back to that idea of trying to hide a crime to avoid a guilty conscience. Which, again, if there is an accusation of mental health problems that led him to do this instead of his own sound judgment. The defendant's lawyers asked for his release from prison until the start of the trial. However, on September 11th, the Federal Court of Lausanne dismissed Thomas's appeal to be released, keeping him in prison as they considered him a danger to society, which I agree is a danger to society and even to the victim's family and to his own daughters, which is most important. Dismemberment stories are uncommon, but I've come across some. However, I've never seen a story where they use a jigsaw, which sounds almost like the show movie, and then a blender. I mean, dismembering a body is just terrible in itself, but I almost feel like what he chose to use takes it to another level of grotesque. Finally, on December 9th of the year 2023, Kristina had posted a post with the following phrase: "There will always be someone who can't see your value. Don't let it be you." And as you can imagine, after her atrocious death, this message makes you wonder if someone was underestimating her value, if she was referring to her husband, who in fact after the crime it was known that before he took her life, the police had received several calls from her home for domestic violence, which is even more disturbing. However, the most disturbing thing about this case is how deep the gap can be between the image someone presents to the world on social media and reality. Unfortunately, this is yet another case of male chauvinist violence, of violence from a deranged, cowardly man carried out in the most brutal way possible. This crime has shocked all of Switzerland and the entire world, highlighting the severity of violence against women, showing that there is still much to improve. After the crime, in fact, Swiss authorities have stepped up their efforts to combat gender violence and ensure that those responsible for such acts face justice. The woman who was the symbol of beauty and success is now the victim of a horrific crime. Sadly, a mother is not going to return home. She is no longer going to teach her daughters the goodness of the world. They are not going to see her grow little by little. But what memory, if there is any, will Kristina's daughters have of the mother who loved them so much? By the way, if you're wondering, it is now known that the girls are living with their maternal aunt. Meanwhile, her husband remains in jail, waiting to reunite with his daughters, even if it's just once before his sentence, which I don't know if it's the most favorable thing. But anyway, the accused has not yet been brought to trial, by the way, and charges have not yet been presented that he will face, nor what his time behind bars will be. Let's hope it's for life. It has also not been clarified what really happened, what triggered that terrible event that led this scoundrel and father of two little girls to take his wife's life in a terrible way. And it is that Kristina's unbreakable love and infinite generosity moved everyone around her, and who today remember her with affection, and for the impact she had on many lives, generating more confidence in women, teaching them a bit of self-love and female strength. Unfortunately, she herself needed that help, but her voice was silenced by someone who claimed to love her. In the end, we hope that Kristina's case does not fall into oblivion and that Switzerland protects its women and girls from cruel men like Thomas, starting by giving them a fair sentence and that he never goes out on the street again so that his daughters can have a safe life. Every day a woman in the world is murdered, whether by her partner or by a stranger or by a system that failed to protect her. This is called femicide, the murder of women simply because of their gender. Like Kristina, hundreds of women die at the hands of their husbands, boyfriends, or partners. What starts as love turns into a spiral of fear and violence. Remember that both channels are on YouTube, which is Pepe Misterio, where interviews are uploaded on Mondays, and many more mysteries where videos related to this type of femicides and crime things are uploaded. You can also find them on Facebook as Many More Mysteries or Pepe Misterio.